Clear thinking sounds simple, but most people avoid it. Richard Feynman explained why this happens. You often believe you are choosing not to think, but a deeper part of you is trying to save effort. The brain runs on energy, and it does not waste that energy unless it has to. When a problem looks hard, your mind searches for the easiest path. It wants a quick answer. It wants a familiar idea. It wants a pattern it has used before. This is not a moral failure. It is simply how the brain works. Some learning feels smooth. Some learning feels heavy. The heavy kind is usually the kind that changes you. It uses more attention. It uses more working memory. It creates more mental load. Feynman respected this fact. He did not rely on willpower alone. He used methods that forced real work, step by step. He treated thinking as active work, not something that happens passively. Your brain resists deep thinking because it costs energy. Fast thinking is your default mode. It runs in the background. It gives you quick judgments with little effort. You use it when you read simple words, recognize a face, or follow a routine. Slow thinking is different. It is not automatic. You have to turn it on. You have to hold the problem in your mind and work through it. This mode is needed when something is new, complex, or unclear. You usually begin with fast thinking. That is normal. You see a topic and your mind produces an instant opinion. You hear a claim and your mind says it sounds right or it sounds wrong. This quick response helps you move through daily life, but it can also block clear reasoning. Feynman understood this difference. He did not trust the first thought just because it arrived quickly. He slowed down. He checked the steps. He asked what the claim really meant. He looked for the parts that could be tested, not just the parts that sounded good. If you want deep thinking, you must choose the slower system and stay with it. Deep thinking only happens when you slow your mind on purpose. You can feel sure about something and still not understand it. The mind likes smooth stories and simple labels. Once you learn the name of a thing, you often feel like you know the thing. This creates a problem. You might say you understand how something works, when what you really mean is that you have heard words about it. The gap stays hidden until you try to explain it. Researchers call this the illusion of explanatory depth. People believe they understand everyday things like a zipper or a bicycle. But when they try to explain the steps in simple words, they struggle. They notice gaps they never saw before. Feynman used this effect as a tool. He pushed ideas into plain language. He tried to explain them without hiding behind complex terms. If the explanation failed, he did not blame the subject. He assumed his own model was weak, and then he rebuilt it. You can do the same. When you cannot explain a concept clearly, that is not shameful. It is useful information. It shows where your thinking is thin. It shows what you need to learn next. The brain prefers the feeling of knowing over the work of checking. It protects confidence more easily than it protects accuracy. Your brain uses shortcuts all the time. These shortcuts help you decide quickly and act without calculating everything. Without them, daily life would slow down too much. But shortcuts have a cost. They can lead you to wrong conclusions while still feeling right. The brain often relies on simple rules like this looks familiar, this fits my past experience, or most people agree, so it must be true. These rules are called heuristics. They are not always bad. In fact, they are often useful. The problem begins when you treat them as proof. A shortcut is a guess, not a test. Bias appears when a shortcut keeps pushing you in the same direction, even when the facts do not support it. You notice evidence that confirms your view and ignore evidence that challenges it. Feynman warned about this kind of self-deception. He said the easiest person to fool is yourself. So he built habits to resist it. He looked for what could be Wrong. He searched for weak points, not just strong ones. Clear thinking means you do not let the first shortcut end the process. Shortcuts make thinking faster, but they also make it less precise. Deep thinking often feels hard. You may want to stop. You may want to switch to something easier. This is normal because deep thinking demands attention and control. There is an overs and is normal because deep thinking demands attention and control. There is a normans, attention and control. There is a normal idea in learning science called desirable difficulty. It suggests that some struggle improves learning. Not all struggle is helpful, but when a task is slightly hard, your brain builds stronger connections. It has to do more than repeat. It has to organize. You see this when you try to solve a problem without looking at the answer. Your first attempts may be messy, but the effort forces recall. It forces you to connect steps. It forces you to see what you do not know. Feynman did not treat confusion as a flaw. He treated it as a signal that the idea was not clear yet. Confusion meant there was work to do. He did not hide it behind fancy language. He made it visible so he could fix it. When you feel mental strain, it can mean you are doing real thinking. It can mean you are building understanding instead of just collecting words. Mental discomfort is often a sign of real learning. You cannot think deeply while your attention is divided. This is not about character. It is about capacity. Your working memory can hold only a few items at once. Deep thinking needs that limited space. You must keep the main idea in mind while testing it against details. You must hold steps in order. When distractions appear, they compete for the same space. Even small interruptions matter. A quick message, a new tab, a random thought, or a sudden noise can pull you out of slow thinking. Then your mind returns to fast thinking because fast thinking is easier under pressure. Research shows that interruptions reduce accuracy and increase the feeling of effort. That makes you more likely to quit. Feynman protected his attention. He gave problems real time. He did not expect deep understanding to appear between interruptions. He created room for his mind to work. If you want depth, you must reduce input and protect focus. Deep thinking requires protected attention. You may avoid deep thinking for a simple reason. It might change your view. It might show that something you believe is weak. The mind does not always want that outcome. This is where ego enters. Ego is not only pride. It is also the need to feel stable. The brain prefers consistency. When new facts clash with old beliefs, tension appears. In psychology, this tension is called cognitive dissonance. Many people reduce it by rejecting new facts instead of updating their beliefs. Confirmation bias makes this worse. You search for support, not for truth. You notice what agrees with you and explain away what does not. Feynman pushed against this tendency. He valued doubt, not endless doubt that stops action, but honest doubt that improves accuracy. He wanted to know what was true, not what felt safe. He understood that progress comes from admitting error and correcting it. You can apply this in daily life. Treat your beliefs as models, not as your identity. Models can be updated without reducing your worth. The goal is not to defend your past self. The goal is to see clearly now. Clear thinking requires comfort with being wrong. Feynman did not treat understanding as a feeling. He treated it as a skill that can be tested. One powerful tool linked to his style is often called the Feynman technique. First, choose a single topic. Keep it small enough to work with. Next, explain it in plain words, as if you are teaching a smart child. Use short sentences. Avoid special terms when possible. If you must use one, define it simply. This forces you to translate, not just repeat. Then look for gaps. You will notice where your explanation becomes vague. You might use words like just or basically. You might start waving your hands. That is the signal. Mark that spot dot after that. Return to the source and repair the weak part. Read a reliable explanation. Work through examples. Rewrite the steps. Then improve your own explanation. This method works because pulling knowledge out of your mind strengthens it. Teaching forces structure. Your brain cannot hide behind familiarity when it must produce clear steps. You do not need to be a scientist. To use this method, you only need honesty and repetition. A simple explanation is the real test of understanding. Deep thinking is not a single event. It is a pattern, and patterns can be trained. Your brain changes with use. This is called neuroplasticity. When you repeat a mental action, the brain becomes better at that action. The pathway grows stronger. The process becomes smoother. The effort does not disappear, but it becomes easier to manage. The first time you solve a type of problem, it feels slow. You check every step. The second time, you recognize the structure faster. After many repetitions, you can hold more of the problem in mind without overload. The same is true for clear thinking. If you always accept quick answers, the quick mode becomes your default. If you practice slowing down, checking steps, and explaining in simple words, that becomes easier too. Feynman trained clarity. He worked through ideas until they became simple. He did not accept fuzzy explanations as good enough. Over time, this built a strong habit of precision. You can build this habit with small daily practice. Choose one idea, explain it. Find the gaps. Fix them. Repeat. The goal is not speed. The goal is clean understanding. Deep thinking becomes easier when you practice it daily. Clear thinking is not a mood. It is a routine. If you rely on motivation, you will often fail. If you rely on a simple system, you will improve. Set a small block of time for focused thinking. It might be 10 minutes or 20. Protect it. No messages. No extra tabs. No constant background checking. Choose a narrow target. Do not try to understand everything at once. Focus on one claim, one concept, or one step. Write it down in a single sentence to give your mind something clear to work on. Explain it in your own words. Keep it simple. If you catch yourself copying phrases, stop and rewrite. That forces real processing. Test your explanation against facts. Look for errors. Look for missing steps. Try a small example. Even a simple example can reveal confusion. Then review and correct. The brain improves through feedback. If you never check your work, you repeat mistakes and call them understanding. Feynman treated thinking as active work. He did not confuse reading with learning. Reading can help, but it is not the same as building a model in your own mind. A habit of clarity grows when you regularly explain, check, and correct. Clear thinking is a daily discipline, not a talent most people avoid. Deep thinking for 3 main reasons. The first is energy. Deep thinking requires effort, and the brain prefers to save effort unless the reward is clear. The second is comfort. Fast thinking feels smooth. It gives quick closure and reduces uncertainty. Many people prefer a quick conclusion over a slow search for truth. The third is self-protection. Deep thinking can reveal mistakes. It can force you to update beliefs. It can show that you repeated ideas you never tested. That can feel threatening, so people avoid the process. These forces are normal. They do not mean you are broken. They mean you are human. The key is that you can work with them. You can design a method that does not depend on trying harder or feeling smarter. Feynman's approach is practical. It respects the limits of the brain while demanding honesty. Slow down when it matters. Explain in simple language. Check the steps. Accept correction. Replace vague confidence with tested understanding. You do not need to copy his life. You only need to copy his standard for clarity. When you do that, deep thinking stops being rare. It becomes a skill you build on purpose. The brain may avoid depth, but disciplined thinking can overcome that resistance.